Welcome to MetaTripping, y'all. Alright, so it's been a very interesting time, and it is definitely synchronizing energetically with, a time for channels, you know what I'm saying, to discern how best to, and I'm just saying a synchronicity, to discern how best to flow with these energies. Flow and merge is what Spirit's giving me. First off the bat, there's been a lot of energy processing that's been going on. So some of y'all may have been dealing with a lot of head clearing. This could have taken the form of pressures around the third eye or crown. It was 9D energy. So those of you who have been listening for a while, back when the weeklies were posted on this channel, the 9D energy it's a primal wave energy, a kundalini energy, that so long as you work with it in a way where you channel it up, as opposed to allow yourself to get pulled into quantum entanglements with that energy, you're able to clear a higher vibrational track to higher densities. You know what I'm saying? And your ability to wield your power at higher densities. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Softer energies to work with that we have found on this end to be very helpful are moonstone and rose quartz. Those are extremely helpful. There's a technique I really not sitting with the internet right now. It might be. Is it Wu Wei? It's basically where, when met with force, there's like. I don't think the master of its name is going to come to me, but I can go and I can look for links. There's a technique that rolls with the force that's coming, so to speak, and the momentum is thrown off of that force, because if you're not meeting, duality energy with duality energy, it completely loses its power because it requires your participation. So this is something that's been coming through for a minute, even into like the spring and summer, Spirit kept coming through like, don't engage. And this is back when the energies had a bit more force to them. It may seem like they have force right now, but that's like trying to ride on your force of energy, trying to ride on your primal wave. So if you don't engage and you channel your energies up, move your energies up, then you can clear pathways. And yes, some of this can be a little uncomfortable, but quantum embodiment is about clearing passageways, and as you're clearing passageways, making sure that the groundwork that you're laying is high vibrational in those passageways, so that you have a higher astral form and flow that you can connect with through intention. All right, and Spirit's giving me a correct. All right, y'all. So I'm going to do a quick reading to tap into more information coming through with these energies. There have still been intrusion attempts from, lower astral energies. They're very obvious now. They should be extremely obvious to y'all. I'd be very surprised if you can't see them for if any of y'all tuning into this channel can't see them for what they are, because as a group, I think the people who tune into this channel have certain abilities to overcome what's been tossed our way way more efficiently, you know what I'm saying, than others who haven't been doing the work and haven't been priming. But there's also, like seed activation, you know what I'm saying? There's activation of what was already there with a lot of y'all, or all y'all. Excuse me. So, and a quick channel update. There are actually a couple things I wanted to get into before I do the reading. Quick channel update. All right, so by now there was supposed to be a launch of the Patreon. Yo, there's supposed to be a launch of the Patreon, but there was a lot of that, interrupter energy attempting to throw off the flow and really throwing it in. You know what I'm saying? I was doing my best not to feed into the duality, Other family members we've been doing our best not to feed into the duality, but just some really outlandish, outrageous situations have been popping up to test folks. And, it was no different with our household. But, if you do the work and you clean and clear, you know what I'm saying, you remove the possibility of that timeline being used against you again. So even if that timeline is kind of flipped on a certain day, you wake up and you're like, oh, where are we now? The density has changed and things feel different. It feels like a new timeline. You've at least built up from that last time you had to deal with that timeline where you're supposed to be. So it's not going to have the same effect on you, and you can deal with whatever may attempt to come, if anything attempts to come, much more wisely, or you may have, really cleared the path to where you don't have any opposition at that point, and you can just see where that path is leading you and what is useful along that timeline to you, because everything is useful. So when we work with these multidimensional aspects that we are dealing with when we're doing this time tripping stuff, when we take that meta stance and we're meta tripping with it, we can grow into our multi-dimensional aspects that are of a higher frequency and higher vibrational level. And that changes the game entirely, and it takes the fear out of the equation, because then you get to see more and more as you come into quantum embodiment what you really are. You know what I'm saying? Which is not what you have been told, and it's not what the simulation would like you to believe that you are. We have been dealing with miracles steady on this end, to the point where, like, my intellectual mind is catching up with what I have experienced on a subtle body level. But it's still been like, whoa, for me. And I've typically been open-minded about certain things, but there were definitely situations that threw me for a bit of a loop on this journey, where I had to just extend trust to spirit and flow with where I was being directed. And you're being guided when you're dealing with spirit, and spirit is not forcing you. Spirit is not trying to use fear against you. It's a different wave, but sometimes it takes us longer to acclimate to those types of vibes, because we're so used to being poked and prodded with fear to act, through being triggered and that sort of thing. So it's the levels of our mind that came to embrace that, through habituation and just generational habituation, where it's just like, well, the aspects of us that would say, well, that's just how things are. All of that's been challenged now, where we're learning that's not just how things are on a meta level. That's just how things are on a disempowered simulation level. So there's a lot of good news, as much as there has been a really challenging time through these deep wave energies. A really challenging time. But there have been so many gems as well that you'll be seeing as you come up higher in vibration. And Spirit's saying correct. All right, y'all. So there's that. The Patreon. At this point, I'm projecting a launch date of December 3rd, and we're attempting to synchronize with that time without any snags. So keep your eye on it. Those channel fairies who are interested, there's going to be a lot of content that I feel more secure offering through Patreon to those that, are invested on a level where they're doing the work and want to, get into an exchange flow where, some of y'all might have channels and you might want to share those channels, and you know what I'm saying, and you'll feel more comfortable because the group will be a little more kind of close knit. You know what I'm saying? So there are different recipes for high vibrational oils that I'm going to be posting there as they're relevant and just as they're channeled as well. There's a new deck that has been in the works, and I'm loving the aesthetic of it, that for Patreon members is going to be available as a pre-release PDF. So, you guys will have access to that. At a higher tier, there are other, okay, I won't get into that too deep, because it's kind of like when I was setting up Patreon, there's more I have to learn about it. It was like they wanted it to be in 3 tiers, and I kind of just wanted 1 tier and then maybe a sponsor tier for those that want to engage in, sponsorship and that sort of thing, and events, putting events together. And so really, like, 2 tiers really would do it for me. But I'm not sure if 3 are required, but it looks like it. So I'll know by the 3rd, you know what I'm saying, what's going on with that. There's also a workbook that's going to be available. I'm not sure that it's only going to be available to Patreon members. That's something I might not, I might just make available in general. But yeah, I think that just about covers it. There's all kinds of goodies. The weeklies are going to be on Patreon, so those of you who have been missing the weeklies, that's going to be available. On this channel, on YouTube, I will still be posting the monthlies because I find them to be highly valuable, and I feel like, regardless of what, I'd like that to be accessible to everyone. And, Spirit seems mostly to be in alignment with that, although Spirit has been pushing me in the direction of Patreon since the early fall, or before we even fully stepped into the fall. It was like, I think sometime in September. So I don't know the exact date. I don't know why sometimes I'd be looking for the exact date that things take place. And there's a reason for that. I think... Yeah, there's a reason for that, and it was interesting to me that these, controversial situations with YouTube have been coming up. Especially the one that was talking about, they were going to be deleting channels that weren't making money and that kind of thing. And to be fair, YouTube, was kind of forced to respond, and they said that's not it at all. The change of the wording with the change of the terms of service, though, it's vague and whatnot, but they clarified, like, no, they're not going to be deleting channels that just because they're not making money. But at the same time, I feel like YouTube, the feel of YouTube has changed. Maybe it can come back to what it once was, where it's more feel good and more, I don't know, like, where it still has its spirit and it's not so corporatized feeling. But it really just began to feel like YouTube was losing its sense of what made it special at one time. Because there was a time where there wasn't a barrier for entry, where you didn't have to go through all these changes to monetize your channel. And, I think, like, when you force people to have a certain amount of subscribers, have to have a certain amount of engagement or whatever to monetize, you kind of, if the people responding to that, some of the people responding to that feel like now they've got to, like, amp things up in a certain way that's not authentic, it just changes the vibe. It changes the vibe of the channels. It changes the vibe of what people choose to post. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for instance, with my channel, I wanted it to be organic and based in truth and what was coming through spirit. So I didn't want to do necessarily what's popular because it's popular. Like, the twin flame thing became, so popular, and you saw so many channels doing it. But my thing was like, but how is this functional on a metaphysical level? Like, how is this actually getting us somewhere, as opposed to just being the popular thing to post and look into, like, every 5 seconds? How can this be looked at in a healthy way that doesn't put people so deep into that consciousness where there can be where they could even be mistaking karmics as their twin flames, just because of the way the information comes through. And I do believe that there are entities behind the whole twin flame thing that we're trying to, like, shoehorn karmics into a position of twin flame by making things look a certain way, including using, like, certain holographic energies, you know what I'm saying, in the dream time and everything. Because, I mean, I had dreams that were, you know what I'm saying, leading me in a certain direction, but they were different. They weren't organic. They were, like, holographic. It was like something was being projected at me while I was sleeping. And I guess my soul, I don't know, I was like, something's not right about this. Like, this doesn't add. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel true. So I think, like, anyways, not to get too far off track, I think, like, maybe YouTube will get itself back and realize that becoming too corporatized in, if you want to call that consciousness, in the mode of, in way of doing things, has failed for businesses in the past. This is when businesses failed and ceased to be popular. So unless that's the objective and the agenda, because sometimes that happens too when a company wants to change its face to something else, then I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with YouTube. But this is typically how the bigger platforms fall off, when they start to lose touch with what the people were really there for to begin with, before they bought, before a bigger system, bought that property, that intellectual property, and should I say digital property? I mean, it's both, right? And took it in a different direction. So I like Patreon. I like the idea of Vimeo right now. And I like the idea of really following the laws of exchange that we should all be following in our lives, because if you're giving, there should be an even exchange, basically, or reasonably even exchange, whether it's just, that's a channel you got? Yo, this is the channel I got last Thursday. It said such and such and such and such. Like, that's a level of engagement that benefits everyone. You know what I'm saying? So that there's no longer that situation where you have like the empaths or the overgivers or the sensitives constantly kind of just shoveling out energy. You know what I'm saying? So, and just shoveling out energy until empty, and then straining and struggling to get more energy, and then going through the whole process again. That's what we went through in the last cycle, the last era, and we're coming into a new cycle where these things have to change. So I do think as people come into closer contact with their true networks and their kindred, we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot more of that business as usual just failing, and more of that barter and trade, less of that ego competition, less of the, pop your collarness, where people can just be their authentic selves, where, where it's not, where you don't have all these gurus who are, being followed like they're God. I mean, we're all gods, So I feel like the more we can get into high vibrational conversations, and, even events, meditation events and things like that, the better it's going to be for everyone, because we all have abilities. Y'all have abilities. And I think we all have to come out of that mind state that, oh yeah, I can do a little such and such, but so-and-so is amazing. Like, we're all amazing. We're discovering what is amazing, about us. We're rediscovering that. Props to chocolate. Find your incredible. You know what I'm saying? If you're not familiar with chocolate, man, go look her up. It's CHOKLATE. Homegirl deserves way more attention than she received, but we all know how this... we all know how the mainstream system has been erected to kind of keep folks away from, you know what I'm saying, that organic flow and what's just coming from the soul. And we've seen a lot of artists that were really keeping the vibes up in the world fall by the wayside, as the direction of music and entertainment was just moved toward a hollow and quick fix, meaningless swerve. All right, this is a long intro. I'm going to have to timestamp this. In all fairness, I do appreciate your patience. All right, so we're going to do a pick a card, Spirit is saying. So take a moment to go to the description box and see which group appeals to you, and then you can fast forward in the timestamps, to the group that your intuition, as you flex your intuition and God, or aka goddess muscles, to the guided spiritual transmission for you. I'm gonna say pause right now if you need more time, and we're gonna go right into group 1. All right, y'all. Group 1. All right, y'all. Just a moment while I get these cards right. Justin. Okay, so y'all are up leveling right now, group 1. What's coming through for you, for your spiritual side, your divine masculine side, is follow synchronicities. For those of y'all been listening for a while, you know when this card comes up, there is some spiritual stuff afoot, including, lurkers who don't intend no good in the background. All right, so if you're feeling like something's trying to look for a loophole to access your energy, you are probably right. But the subtext of this card is you are guided. So the divine masculine in your group, and this can be within you or it can be an actual divine masculine embodiment, is learning to detect the change in the waves on a level where you can feel things lurking in the shadows, but now it's like it's on a higher astral, or at least, well, Spirit is saying mid-astral. It's like a mid-astral type of, oh, okay, I peeped that you're there. And now you are getting into how to work with your own internal technology to deal with what is there without having to actually engage with it. So there, as opposed to before where it was like Spirit really had to place in front of you angel numbers or had to place in front of you a recurring word so that every time you saw that word, an aspect of you that does pay attention to synchronicities would know better times were coming and your mood could shift up. Now you can work with these synchronicities. You can even work with your clear audience. I think even some of you who've been afraid of it are maybe still dealing with that fear on a tension level, but the necessity of listening to Spirit, like this need to know what to do next, is now causing your aspects to say, oh, okay, all right, like just, you know what I'm saying? Like you can kind of hit me with it, but you know what I mean? But you're like a little bit braced. So when we're like that, it can be more difficult for Spirit to come through with clear audience messages. So you might only get one word, and that could be like, for years I knew it was Spirit, but then my intellectual mind categorized it, as potentially different. It took a while before I could really get into full clear audience, before I even knew that was on the journey I was on, because I didn't want to be on the clear audience journey. I didn't want to hear nothing talking to me. But little did I know, that was just a certain level of my ego and my fears that were invested in that from some childhood things. It is one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me in my life, and I've been able to help people with it, which is a big deal for me as an empath, because honestly, if I couldn't be of assistance, I don't think I would have incarnated, because I don't really like it here all that much, and never have. If we're being real, when I've liked it here, it's when I've been able to create high-frequency situations around me and be in that high-frequency wave. I've done very poorly in lower-frequency waves when I've had to be subjected to them for a long time. Literally, it's made me physically sick. It's really not been a fun journey for me as a being. So if you're on that journey where you're coming into more and more clear audience opening, just know that Spirit will deal with you as you are comfortable, like real Spirit. I'm not talking about the ones that are trying to play you. The ones that are trying to play you don't feel right and don't come right. So that's how you know they ain't right. But the ones that are really guiding you, they may just give you something, you know what I'm saying, a word, or a 2-word phrase, or they may show you pictures if it's easier to reach you through your inner vision. As you start to pay attention to these things more, and then you pay attention to the waves those things are coming from and what it's connected to, you can change your track. You can change, when instead of being forced to time trip by whatever's going on, whether it's, this machine that they claim is behind some of these simulation type situations that's been played with, you know what I'm saying, by those who are trying to figure things out but don't really know what they're doing, or, whatever. When put in those waves, if you're on a meta wave level, you can handle whatever comes, and you can start to learn and pay attention to the densities, like, oh, this feels like 2D. And if you're working with that information, you know what I'm saying, where you're like, oh, this is a 2D day, whether it's for you personally or for the collective, journal that so that you can start to get familiar with where you're at. It's going to help you figure out where access points are to get to higher points, or figure out what you're supposed to do while you're in a certain kind of wave. You may just be there to connect with others and give a message. You may be there because there's some healing that, in your incarnation, your starseed journey, you agreed to do when you got to a certain point of activation. And then through helping others, through providing healing energy, whatever your swerve is, now you're going to learn more and more about your true self. So, it's really a beautiful thing. I think a lot of you have tremendous potential, but you've been putting on the brakes real heavy with it, and that can cause you headaches. It can cause things to, in a physical way, be very uncomfortable because of like that fear mode that you're like clutching onto, just by not being comfortable with the higher density. But if you allow yourself to like be vigilant and all, but pay attention to the higher waves, you're gonna be able to move up faster. You know what I'm saying? And spirit can guide you and help you out. So you don't have to feel like no man is an island, so to speak, in this sense. You don't have to feel like you're on this journey alone. You are not. You have never been on this journey alone. People are like, you're born alone, you die alone. None of that is true. You have the illusion, the illusionary experience of that, but none of that is true. So we're relearning these falsehoods that we've been given. We're relearning what's actually true. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, there can be resistance to that from the simulation itself, whatever shadow agents are connected to the simulation, and also your own resistance born of the conditioning you were put through in this simulation before you came into a more acute awakening. All right, y'all. So trust in yourself. You have what you need, but also like trust in your higher mind, and like your team that's with you, that's guiding you, because they can get you where you're trying to go. It's a matter of trust. We have been, quote unquote, burned before by trusting the wrong folks. We have to get into a wave where we can let that go enough to realize, but then there are the right folks. There are the right beings. There are the right tracks. You know what I'm saying? The right routes, the right energetic passageways, where the more that we learn to trust ourselves, our quantum selves, the more easeful the ascension process is, and the more you allow yourself to be great, the more easeful it is for you to come into, your God and goddess abilities. And again, it's not a race, but please work on avoiding looking at anyone that you come into contact with like, oh, so-and-so got it, because they're the chosen. When you accept what you're chosen for, then you get to see how you were the chosen, and we are all the chosen. You know what I'm saying? If we get in alignment with that, look, ain't no gurus, y'all, that are like better or holier than thou. We have all the answers. Where you think these light codes come from? They come from us as we overcome certain types of situations, and then our solutions go into, the right, collective, or the soul tribe collective, and what have you, and then we may exchange certain things with allies, and this is how it works, that at least how spirit has shown me, and how experience through working with spirit and trust what it's shown me. You know what I'm saying? So, I just feel the need to say it again. There are some who are just like, so-and-so is just amazing, or did you see this medium on TV? Like, yo, like, that's just giving you an example where if that really speaks to your heart, that there's really, really great odds that ability is within you as well. And probably greater, but that, not to make it an ego thing, but you know what I mean? Because that can happen too, with the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Like, that can happen too, whereas you come out of sleep, you have the people who helped to guide the way, because you have, the really deep, deep codes. So there's no shame in feeling like, oh, I'm being activated, you know what I'm saying, right now, where I was activated last year and I still don't feel like I've made much progress. It's not a race. We're all working together. But it's important now that people embrace their quantum self. Embrace your multidimensional self, your multidimensional reality. Whatever tools speak to you and resonate with you, like, this works for me. If it's crystals, rock it out. Follow your intuition. If it's flowers, you know what I'm saying? Which, I have a particular thing, you know what I'm saying, with flowers. There's a whole thing behind that, which I haven't, like, revealed on a spiritual level, but there's been connections to that, you know what I'm saying, for some time, that came out in different ways before, where I was dealing with I still am, but like where I was more heavily dealing with the green movement and what have you, and the consciousness therein, the original consciousness therein, and what I'm, really moving towards again. So, moving to the divine feminine level of consciousness, live your dream, sacred dreamer. The energy that I'm getting here, there's like dream insights. Some of you are dealing with visitations in your dreams. Nothing to be, you know what I'm saying, alarmed about. Some of these visitations, are awakening. I'm being shown something that almost looks angelic, but that's inspiring like tears, but it's from the heart. So some of you may be releasing as you come in contact with higher vibrational energies, as you release, old feelings of guilt, old feelings of worthlessness. So there's no need to be alarmed. Just a moment to see what else is coming up here. It's a 10D card, so it's about image and ordaining. Like, watch for anything that is trying to pull your consciousness away from your awakening, and it will feel lower vibrational is what Spirit is telling me. So, I don't know how hard these things can really come anymore, at least not at this time, but it can start as a small thought, and if you allow it to access you through that doubt wave, then it can try to get a hold on a subtle body level, and that's how these things have been working, was from behind the scenes. But so much has been cleaned up behind the scenes that it's not easy for that to be the method of getting people anymore. But coming into trust with higher vibrational levels can also be very challenging when you've dealt with a lot of emotional abuse. So really get into really high vibrational waves when you feel frightened by the energies that are around you, any entities that might be in the atmosphere. I'll be posting a video about how to know if there are spirits in your house, because some of these things come through sneaky, and they're not the high vibrational spirits. The astral has a lower aspect to it, a middle aspect to it, and a higher aspect to it. So when we deal like at that mid level, it's a crossroads level. So there's certain activities that take place there that really bring out that, divine warrior aspect, but it's all how we deal with our divine warrior abilities. And this is a time where you're kind of divine feminines or the divine feminine aspect within y'all. For group 1, you're being lifted through the astral, like you're being carried up. So as long as you don't freak out or have any stops and starts, and you can go into a place of like really high vibrational peace, whatever phantoms or negative energies or fake entities trying to pull you into something are going to dissolve. And you're going to find yourself in a higher wave where there's a lot of nurturing and a lot of help as you come into what Spirit is saying is your true purpose here. All right, y'all? And I'm being directed to move to the Good Comes to Me card, which is gratitude is a subtext. So getting into a space of gratitude, the Spirit is saying it's not going to be much work. There are going to be reasons to get into a space of gratitude. Maybe y'all got your good luck fairies around you. Serious at some of y'all. Those fairy energies, y'all. Those fairy energies. But we'll get into that. I definitely have. I got some things to speak on with that, but I'm really going to focus on just how to deal with these passage energies for y'all energetically to, to work with on the channel. But good comes to me, the energies with the upcycling. It's like go into your good memories. That's going to empower a lot of y'all right now. And remember the gifts that are attached to those good memories, because those can be brought online again. So sometimes we think things are lost that are not lost. So this is a time to feel good and soak up the good vibrations, group 1s. because it's going to serve you in the coming days. It's going to give you a certain sense of serenity with whatever, you know what I'm saying, comes in the future. And there's going to be a knowing that's attached to it. This, you know, when you synthesize the energies between the divine feminine and divine masculine consciousness, you have right brain, left brain synchronicity, where it's synchronized, it's working together in harmony. This affects the relationships between the divine feminine and masculine embodiments. So whether, you know, whatever your connection is, you know, if y'all are in partnerships right now, by working together, by staying in kind of a higher sanctuary dream space and allowing yourself to be carried up in the astral divine feminine, you help the divine masculine to learn what he's seeing as he's learning to follow synchronicities in the astral and follow the right wave. So, you know, I've noticed this a lot whenever I have tuned into divine feminine and masculine consciousness, where what one chooses to do affects the other. So whether it's a lower vibrational decision or a higher vibrational decision, you remember those lower vibrational decisions are fear inspired. And we really came through a passage. We really went through a Stargate, okay, this week. You know what I'm saying? So, and, you know, we're still passing through a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But like, we're much higher in the waves is what Spirit is giving me. So when you're in that position, you know what I'm saying? Staying in a harmony focus is going to do everything to bring the rest of your energy up. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't feel completely grounded right now, if you don't feel that comfortable in this density, give it a minute. You know what I'm saying? Keep building on those high vibrational waves. You know what I'm saying? You'll feel great. You're going to feel amazing. And that's going to affect your sacred other, whether you're the divine feminine embodiment or the divine masculine embodiment. But divine masculine embodiments focus on synchronicities. Pay attention to the shift in energy and the waves, and rather than get sucked in, like, be aware when something's getting ready to try to draw your energy. You know what I'm saying? And just be on some I'm about to head out. Be on your I'm about to head out and head out. You know what I'm saying? Divine feminines, just a moment, go into your all, you know, really deal with that all is well consciousness, because you have the ability to kind of conjure and dissolve whatever pops up in the astral right now. Period. So get used to the feeling, play with it a little bit. You know, this is a great time to, like, if you resonate with unicorn consciousness, if you resonate with, and really, if it's been imagined, it's in the astral to access. If you resonate with fairy consciousness, if you resonate with angelic consciousness, whatever it is that you resonate with, because the angels precede the church. You know, the church had to find a way to jam the angels into the doctrines, but, like, they precede the church, period. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if those of y'all who are concerned about the church swerve, you don't have to be concerned about the church swerve. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to angelic energies are higher vibrational, directional energies, and they have certain routes and the force that comes with traveling those routes. You know what I'm saying? But that's another matter, I guess, probably another video to get into at length. So I hope this was helpful, y'all. I don't want to go too long. I want to make sure that group 2 has an ample amount of time. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. It really feels like, in Spirit saying correct, like, this is just a lot of calibration energy taking place, and the higher you vibe, the higher, I'm sorry, just a moment. The higher the frequency you can calibrate within is what Spirit's given me. All right, ciao. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you do feel like this video has helped you, I do appreciate those who take the time to give a like. It's, you know, it's meaningful. It shows me a certain level of gratitude and that I'm not just out here, you know, channeling information and you know, calling it out to a void that doesn't speak back. So, you know, those of you who have taken the time to comment in the past, I don't think you have any idea how much that means, and have taken the time to like and say thank you, you know what I'm saying, for whatever I have been able to extend through channels with Spirit, you know, to assist you on your journey, you know, it's meaningful. And those of you, if you're concerned about notifications, you get notifications when you're subscribed. So if you are inclined to subscribe, you click subscribe, but remember to tick the notification bell, so that you get notifications when readings drop. And if you're subscribed but you're not getting notifications, it might be because the bell's not ticked, so you may have to go in and tick the notification bell. It's become a thing that's necessary. I'm sure you've heard this from other YouTubers, because of the algorithms, the way YouTube's algorithms are currently working. And that shifts and changes whenever Google takes a notion for the algorithms to change. So it's just what is happening right now. So whatever videos are important to you that you receive notifications on, you're going to want to make sure that you make YouTube aware of it with the notification bell. And that is all, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and peace and blessings on your ascension journey. All right, group twos. So Heartlight is at the top of the deck. Renewal is a subtext. So group twos, there's a certain amount of renewal that's needed to help you check some lower self type impulses that are kind of born of a temptation towards desperation consciousness or lack consciousness. So you can get into kind of working with like the, green waves of energy. It might make some of y'all very sleepy, but it can put you out of like thoughts that could have you falling into being puppeted by like lower vibrational energies. Okay. It's kind of like there's like a lower vibrational situation, or the lower vibrational aspects of the simulation or what have you, or a higher vibrational for that matter, Spirit is saying, could have a role for you. You know what I'm saying? If you allow yourself to be puppeted by this idea that you don't have a lot of worth, is what's coming through Spirit. So being aware that is one of the areas that attacks on your mind and your frequency could be coming at, because I do think it's a lot of like mind attack, because I think like on the vibrational level, y'all have harnessed a certain amount of light, where it's not so easy to attack you there. It's not so easy to find insecurities at your embodiment level. But on a frequency level, old thoughts, old criticisms that could have come through family members, sisters, mothers, that kind of were aimed at not allowing you to be beautiful, or just criticizing you into a position of feeling like you were less, when really it was just that you had a particularly bright light. That can be the reality for some of you in terms of, the non-reality, as it were. That could be the area that could fall under attack. So it could come through, arguments. It could come through a phrase that triggers you from a movie. It could, you know what I'm saying? Just however it comes, that's what's being targeted, so that this is where like you could be triggered into giving a third look at relationships that are very bad for you, where it's like, oh, so-and-so's on the phone again, and where you might consider, you know what I'm saying, picking up the phone, where you might consider being lulled to sleep by being pulled into a karmic relationship again. So be aware of your value triggers being messed with, and just for the record, it doesn't have to be that it came through just females in your line. It could be friends. It doesn't even have to be females, although it can be more feminine inclined type men. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's by their sign or their affect, or their mode of deception. Watery individuals that are tricky in that way and play on emotional strings. Is a certain type of energy that really has been utilized to keep you down, when in all actuality you're supposed to remember, your light frequency and get up and bravely shine it. So that's what's up with that. All right, so on a divine masculine level of consciousness and also embodiment, for those of you who like to see what's happening with the divine feminine and masculine, excuse me, so that so you can see how the energies are synthesizing. Excuse me, just a moment, y'all. Star root is where the masculine's energy and conscious. I'm sorry, star crown. I'll be all right, y'all. Star crown is where the divine masculine consciousness is really best served right now. Some of y'all are going to have some visions of ancient Kemet coming up in these high vibrational waves. This is a higher self wave. That's the subtext of the card. It is also a 10D card. So while it is associated with certain levels of the crown chakra, it is associated with higher levels of the crown chakra. And there has been a lot of clearing, head clearing going around. You might have done yours. It could have been a couple of weeks ago, or the promptings of it could have started a couple of weeks ago, and even last month. For maybe like a third of y'all last month, this could have been a thing. So now you may be having some visions of like ancient Kemet. Possibly even of roles you've played in ancient Kemet. So those energies are coming online in you, is what's coming through spirit. There are certain things. Okay, so spirit said these are the knowers. All right, so those of you who are having those experiences, for sure, it's that you're awakening now to being in like your knower consciousness. Some of y'all were tested hard body within the past, like a couple of weeks ago. Is probably a time where it was really, the energies were really thick, attempting to really kind of hijack you into lower timelines. So had you allowed yourself to go into that wave, it was also trying to bring about a certain level of generational enslavement. So some of y'all might have been, some people could have been playing some games, trying to, you know what I'm saying, like with pregnancy related, whether the news is true or false, or whether it's not a news-based thing, whether it's just someone that was trying to lure someone into that position. There was a tone of generational enslavement being attempted. So the wave for some of y'all of deception was pretty big. And it was aimed at throwing off, just a moment, your divine inheritance is what's coming through spirit. Some of you are lined up to receive like big abundance. And by lower vibrational types worming their way in to attempt to become inheritors of that, you know what I'm saying? These are usually the times, or those, whenever those types of waves will try to come through, those are usually the times in the past when the abundance of generational lines was literally hijacked and ended up in someone else's hands. So it's really important to pay attention to who you connect with sexually, who you connect with in emotional bonds, who you connect with, period, at this time. It looks like, it's feeling like a lot of y'all, I'm getting like 75%, and Spirit saying maybe even 80% of y'all made it through, and you have your eyes. You have your eyes now. So you'll be knowing things. You'll be that person in the room who's kind of, some of y'all might not even have too much to say, because you're just going to be peeping what's going on around you, and too wise to get caught up in quantum entanglements that would kind of seek to use the old manipulation tricks to play you. So like the old tricks are red flags, and for you it's some of you, it's even amusing when you watch some of these red flags playing out, and you're like, yo, y'all are mad obvious. So I'm being directed to move on to the Divine Feminine Consciousness. The Divine Feminine Consciousness is dealing with sacred root. The subtext of this card is stability. Divine Feminines, we've all been looking for so long. The energies here, just a moment. This is a 1D card as well. The energy in Impatiens is the flower essence associated with this card. Oh, and I believe, with Star Crown, it's Willow. Spirit saying that'll help you get up into higher waves working with Willow. So see, some of y'all could just go hug a tree if you got any willows around you. So sit beneath a tree and meditate. It'd be a wild astral experience for sure. Sacred root. Excuse me, y'all. I don't know what's going on with my throat chakra right now. Clearing, I guess. Yeah, some of y'all just are clearing, literally divine feminines, but in like Earth. It feels like Earth energies. It feels like with the wisdom of, Mother Earth, Gaia, Mama Netter, however you connect with this energy through naming, nomenclature. You're getting in touch with deep feminine wisdoms. Just a moment. It's humbling, though. You know what I'm saying? Some of you are dealing with shame issues. A lot of it was imposed, Spirit is saying. A lot of it was imposed. So that's even challenging to come into terms with, divine feminines. For you, it's like, but why? Because there's such an innocence in you, and you really wanted to believe in some of the people who were really trying to break you down. With just that innocent, childlike love that you tend to extend. So you're getting ready to ground into the density of higher waters. This is the sacred root. So when we're dealing with the sacred root, we're grounding into the foundation of timelines that lead us to our full blooming. And you're in the position of doing that now, but it takes for you to get into your feminine grace, and it's an earthy feminine grace. It's a body acceptance, not with an attachment to the simulation, but a body acceptance on a level where you don't need the approval of others. You can move in the way that feels right to you. You don't have to feel like your movements have to be choreographed or aimed to please. You come in touch with cosmic rhythms when you do that. And your movements become far more natural and serene, and you feel serene because that body-mind connection, y'all, is what it's all about. Some of you can work with your Aset consciousness for your purging needs. Because for some of y'all, some tears are going to need to be shed. All right? And they're old tears, and they're baby tears, and, just things you should have never had to go through, but you did go through for sacred alignment reasons is probably the best way that I would describe it, and Spirit is saying that's good. So, like sacred alignment, like we get into our sacred alignments when we realize we're not on a sacred track. When we realize, oh, that's why I've been feeling off, or that's why I feel off when I'm around so-and-so, or that's why everything's been thrown off since I got into a relationship with so-and-so. Like, really paying attention to what you connect to and why is so crucial. So crucial. All right, y'all. So just do your best to be as serene as possible, good to yourself. Let the poison out, you know what I'm saying? But let it out in a way where you honor your need to let it go. Where it doesn't have to define you anymore, not even in battle, you can just let it go, and you can embrace your, like, the earthy, like, grace level of you. You know what I'm saying? And learn what that aspect of you has to teach. Remember, we're multidimensional, y'all. Staying in one position, especially a position that's underserved, it's not advised. It's not advised for the path forward. This is, a journey that is, navigationally fluid, at higher levels. So getting back in touch with that, like, mer level of density where you can flow into form, and flow with your movements is everything when it comes to your thought frequency, and where your thought frequency is able to align. You know what I'm saying? For illumination. You know what I'm saying? So moving on to, mainly you guys are going to be grounding energy, and sacred waters, which is higher astral energy, is what you're grounding. So, a lot of you would do well to be journaling is coming through spirit. You have a lot of insights coming through. Sacred downloads you're going to want to remember. Honor them by putting them in writing. How do you think we ended up with sacred, writs of old? You know what I'm saying? Like, folks, as they dealt with their astral journeying and their MetaTripping and what have you, they recorded, you know what I'm saying? They recorded pathways for others to follow. So it's a very sacred aspect of the journey. And as you're purging, like, the filtering work that others have done in the collective, it's helping you to trust the process of letting go, to trust that you won't be left with emptiness. All right, y'all. For what you'll be up-leveling, for whatever up-leveling, I think it's more thought frequency based. So this may apply more to divine masculines, or it may, if you're very, very sleepy, or you're feeling very dense divine feminines, it may be how you stay awake, how you manage to get through the day is just by utilizing thought frequency is how it's coming through. But you are greater than your challenges is the card that came up. This is the victory card. Y'all are, the victors. You know what I'm saying? The heroes of your own journey, and that's very important. You know what I'm saying, to keep in mind. This is a 9D energy. So it can cause some head clearings, and that's been going around. And I spoke about for some more intense than others. If you're having really bad headaches, make sure you're surrounding yourself in gentle energies. This is, primal wave energy coming up to assist you as you move up into a higher level of density. And sometimes when you have to go through really compacted, dense, patterning that's been aimed at dragging you down, there are still those old programs trying to keep doing that. So basically, hitching your wagon to a star, hitch your wagon to a thought frequency that is higher vibrational, that resonates with you, and allow yourself to kind of, float up into a higher density that way. And that's going to help you to keep going, divine feminines. And for divine masculines, that's going to help you actually feel anchored in the journey and not so sleepy, so that you can continue the work. And I see some of y'all, like, recording and studying and researching and, like, doing the work, doing some form of sacred work with that star crown energy. All right, so I hope that this is helpful to y'all. I think if there isn't anything else. Okay, well, Spirit's saying focus on body cleansing. You're going to go up higher in density the more that you do your body cleansing. Sea salt baths are always good. Internal detoxes. Wow, I don't know if this came through before, but this is coming through from Spirit. Internal detoxes can also be helpful to you. So, you can even do something as simple as and not generic. Spirit is saying, but so I guess like look for a higher end bottle, like Bragg's liquid aminos or better, type apple cider vinegar. But you can do that as an internal cleanse. Just put like a teaspoon in water, or start with a half a teaspoon, whatever you feel you can tolerate, and it's going to help to cleanse. Spirit likes lemon water better as advice, so you can really just put lemon juice in some water, squeeze. It's better if you can squeeze some real lemons into your water, and do that for about 3 weeks, you know what I'm saying? Like to help your system. When your system is more alkaline, it's a lot easier, for you to retain your chi is what's coming through spirit. All right, y'all. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to those who take the time to like and comment whenever you're inclined. It does help YouTube to know that this channel has value, and it also helps me to know that I'm not, just talking into a void. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with y'all and exchange channels, like, you know what I'm saying? Or literally, I guess it's literally in both cases, right? If y'all have YouTube channels, where you do readings, like, don't spam the comment section, but feel free to say, oh yeah, I got a similar channel, or I got a channel that's complementary to that now that I'm thinking about it, whatever. Or maybe you just got a channel last night in a dream, like what you put out there, it's a safe zone. Feel free to engage, and then others can engage with you on what they're receiving, and this can become more of, what it's meant to be, which is a higher frequency community where everyone's voice is celebrated, and everyone who is playing a higher frequency, higher vibrational role can feel safe enough to use their voice without fear of criticism, without, but where it's just you're celebrating the jewels, the literal meta gems that are coming into, you know what I'm saying, our consciousness, and these higher waves that we're ascending up into. This is a sacred process. It's beautiful, and folks should feel like they have people to talk to about that. All right, y'all. If you're not receiving notifications and you would like to know when readings and Ascension updates and Ascension tools and energy transmissions are posted, you'll want to subscribe and then tick on the notification bell. If you're already subscribed and you're not getting notifications, if you're inclined, you can go back and check and see if your notification bell is ticked. There is something going on with YouTube algorithms where that's really important. So like if you got off on an anime binge, let's say like next week, that might be what follows what you get notifications for, and you might not get a lot of your reading notifications. It all depends, I guess, like on what you watch. But if you have the bell ticked, you're going to get notifications regardless from the channels where you want to know, like, oh, a video dropped, let me go peep that. All right, y'all. So that's a little, additional infos on how things seem to be working with YouTube. And the intro was rather long. If you sat through it, there's also the opportunity to join Patreon and receive a lot of Ascension tools and, higher vibe type recipes for, frequency oils and that sort of thing. Also, y'all will have access to the next deck that is going to be released in a pre-print release PDF version, so y'all be able to actually print that out yourselves and cut it and utilize it before anyone else. Those of you channel fairies that are interested in joining that Patreon, and that's going to be available on all of the tiers. I'm still working it out. I really only wanted to have that one tier, but I'm not sure if we're obligated to have 3 right now, but I'd rather start out that way. But it is what it is. There's going to be a lot of content posted in advance for the launch, which is planned for December 3rd. All right, I'm going to close out here, y'all. There are definitely I have to begin recording more content for Patreon, and these videos are focused. There will still be star ancestry videos on the YouTube MetaTripping channel, but I'm probably going to be posting overviews of the readings, whether I'm doing them live or whether they're pre-recorded, that are first posted on Patreon. So I have to get that lined up so that those that are wanting to engage on the Patreon level have that access available to them on the day of the launch, and they don't have to play the waiting game. All right, y'all, and that's in between daily life concerns. So I have been wanting to get more content on the channel, but I do know I have this video and the other video that's telling you how you can detect if you have spirits in the house. It'll be posting, so that I'm making sure that y'all are, those of you who tune in and primarily prefer to tune in, through the YouTube generalized area, have content to listen to that is useful on this journey. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings on your ascension journey. You are appreciated.